So, hello and welcome to the next episode of the Self Development with Tactics podcast. And today, as you can see in the background, we are going to go through the body language book that I was previously been going through with you. So I think it was 2 days ago actually. I do actually just kind of manage to really just some sort of mix it up so that it is not only body language and or not only self-development or not only finances. So I'm now probably doing one day body language and one day the Tony Robbins book on how to influence people, which is something I've really been looking forward, and I do definitely look into it or go through it in my leisure time, which I hope doesn't make the episode bad or something, but I do can just, then say a little bit more to all the things that he is discussing in his book. Unfortunately enough, I didn't really know where we have stopped, but I definitely know that the power of touch is something we haven't been discussing. So, I think we will just go on with famous and Vip's arms crossing, which by the title I do not fucking know what this means, but let's see. So the authors say that celebrities who tend to be more aware of body language, I've read that one already, but yeah, that are more aware of body language will more rarely be seen with obvious self-hugging gestures, but their nervousness will still often leak. For example, they might reach out with an arm to the back on the other side, which is something that's just, if you just think about it, just seems really, really crazy. Because, why would you do this? But I do actually think, there is something behind it for why this author is, or the authors are just pointing it out. Or fix their watches or bracelets or shirt cuffs, and women can often clasp on their purses. I think more like claps on their purses. But yeah. So I do just have to check a message I got. But let's see where I stopped. And I do have to cover up myself a little bit and I do it like this because there is a white window open in front of me on my second monitor, there is a little bit more light going into my fucking face so that you can actually see me a little bit better. And on the other side, I do not see the time. I'm recording, which helps me a little bit more to concentrate on what I'm reading and not on looking on myself all the fucking time, which is something I do tend to be doing. But can I do it like this? Yeah, I could do it like this, so that I can actually, I don't want to see the time, but I do want to see the audio if everything is okay. But yeah, so I think it's gogging. Is it gogging? I don't know. This is the thing. Gogging our speaking partner. Offering a refreshment is a great way of gogging where the other person stands. Do they place the cup on the side, open and accepting that you're saying, or in front, closed and not accepting? So either they will put the cup or the glass or whatever you gave them as a refreshment, they either put it on their side to be a little bit more open, which makes sense because then there's nothing in the way of your or you actually speaking, or they will put it directly in front of them so that there is actually some kind of barrier in front of them so that they can a little bit distance them from you a little bit if you're speaking with the person. So if you're just watching the whole situation, it's not you. So I just wanted to point it out. They can also hold it to the side, thus crossing the arms in front of the body, or hold it to the side, thus opening up, which means then just the same thing as before. Like if you're crossing your arms, you will be more defensive. There will be a barrier. There will be something in between, and if not, then not. Arms and arm rests. Planting your elbows on the armrest is a position of power. Letting your arms fall on the inside of the chair is the position that humble, defeated individuals will take. Yeah, I think it's probably because if you just do have your arms on your armrests, you kind of take up more space in the area or in the room or on the seat. But if you do just, are just making you, way tinier than you actually are, just keeping everything pretty tight, you seem just pretty tight. Not tight, but yeah, you could seem tight, but you seem pretty small. And therefore, you're not just like an predator or not something like dangerous. I do always kind of tend to think of all these signals as if we are very, very in our early days of the human being. Because if you're just sitting here, like, you're just really making yourself like a triangle, then you just really create a lot more space for yourself, and you do seem a little bit bigger than just, pressing everything against your body, so your hands and everything. Yeah. The power of touch. Barbara and LNP say that touching someone with your left hand while shaking hands can create some powerful results. The phone booth test showed that people who were being touched lightly on the elbow for less than 3 seconds gave back a coin 68% of the times versus the 20% of people who didn't. P said that worked well because the elbow is a safe area to touch. So they then point out that, and which makes total sense. But I'll actually read it. The elbow is a safe area to touch. Second, because touching a stranger is not considered normal, so it created a powerful impression. And third, the most important of all, a touch creates a momentary bond between two people. So all these points they point out are actually pretty great and they make sense, which is actually the thing I pretty much like about this book, because they just say something, they make a statement, but they do also say why it is like this, and then you also can really just see and be like, yeah, this makes sense. So at least for me, all these things make sense. They point out. But touching above or below the elbow did not produce the same positive effect, and touching for more than 3 seconds also had a negative response. I do think that touching a little bit above the elbow isn't quite working, because this is just a really sensitive area now. Because the elbow is quite something that's not that sensitive, nothing that you should be worrying about. But your arms and especially your head is something that's really important to you, and you do not want to be hit or hurt by some strangers which you normally can't really trust. So therefore, I just believe that this is the reason for not just touching strangers, above the elbow. But below the elbow, it might be like a little bit too low, or a little bit more distance between you and them. So the elbow just seems to be the perfect middle of everything. I was both appealed and had to laugh when I saw that the same experiment with elbow touching gave an 85% return rate in Germany, 50% of French, and a paltry 22% of coin returns in Italy. But P said that it's because in Italy culture is more normal to touch, so the elbow touch didn't create such a special moment. Yeah, this is also pretty interesting to see that, it's just depends on, what culture you are, what region you are as well, what country you are, because not every country, even though they just might be in the same area, do have the same culture, even though it would might make sense, but I'm not that educated in this, so do take everything with a grain of salt. Looking at conversations outside cafes indeed showed 220 touches an hour in Rome, 142 in Paris, 25 in Sydney, 4 in New York, and 0 in fucking London. I was in London. I think it was a pretty great city, so nothing against London people. It's a great city. Just wanted to emphasize my point, or the point the book is making. So women were 4 times more likely to touch another woman than another man, which is, I think, as I was reading this before this episode, it wasn't quite surprising for me, because I do think, women in general are more just, are driven by their feelings a little bit more than men are. I do not know if this is right or true or whatever, but women seem to be more driven by their feelings, and men seem to be more driven by their instincts or some kind of needs. Like, but I would either say, or better say, instincts. A famous experiment with a librarian slightly brushing the hand while issuing a book also had powerful effects, with the borrowers being touched responding more favorably to all the questions and more likely to recall the name of the librarian. So I do have to repeat it, or do want to repeat it, because I think it's quite great, but I've read it just like really in a shit way. So a famous experiment with a librarian slightly brushing the hand while issuing a book also had powerful effects, with the borrowers being touched responding more favorably to all the questions and more likely to recall the name of the librarian. So, just to really summarize all these things that were just said in the last few minutes, touching someone is actually a good thing, but not too near to the head and not too near to their hands or whatever, because I do really think that this is just a little bit too much of a distance. Then just touching the elbow or an above just seems for me to be like, yeah, it's a little bit dangerous to be above the elbow. But let's see what they say about cultural differences. I fully agree with Barbara and Ellen Pease when they say the world is becoming more and more similar and the basics are the same almost everywhere. And I think this is because we all do have the internet and we all do just are connected in some way, way better than just before, 50, 20, 100 years. And therefore we just adapted some kind of general culture or general just basic behaviors, which I think are just kind of based on how we behave on the internet. Maybe. So I do think especially the internet and the better communication between people in terms of actually texting them and or country to country, or people in countries to another people or another person in another country. So yeah. So at the end, it's just social media. Pictures of happiness, anger, fear, sadness, disgust, and surprise in 21 different cultures registered mostly the same response everywhere. Japan was the exception, which described fear as surprise. The biggest cultural differences exist mainly in relation to territorial space, eye contact, touch frequency, and insult gestures. Especially insult gestures, which is actually something that we've been discussing in school, or you just see it pretty often, that some gestures that might be in your culture or in your region or your country just something friendly even, or just something that's quite neutral, or just like a you thing, might be pretty fucking insulting in another country. So it is always great to just to really look for these certain gestures on the internet before you're just moving or traveling to another country, to really not insult somebody. The regions with the most local signals are Arab countries, parts of Asia, and Japan. P says that we do business with people who make us feel comfortable, and it comes down to sincerity and good manners. I don't know. I think it probably also comes up to how similar these persons are compared to us. So at my point of view, we do probably like people that are like us more than people who are just way different than us. This is something I've heard. This is something I kind of believe in. It comes up to whether you like yourself or you do not pretty much like yourself. Because if you do like yourself so really fucking much, then you will probably like someone who is just, kinda like you more than just someone who is not like you. But if you're not liking yourself in general, then it might be just some kind of neutral feeling, or you might even be liking somebody who is just like you, not that much like somebody who isn't like you. If you just got that, if this is not too complex talking about it. and good manners. The author suggests that when you are in a foreign country and unsure of the local customs and gestures, it could be a good idea to reduce the range of your body language signals until you can better understand the local ones. Yeah, totally a great advice to really not insult somebody or just in terms of business, which is might not be the best thing to, really get lost of your business or lose this business there. Just because you did some just really fucked up gestures, or thought like, yeah, I'm making jokes, and everything fired back. This could actually be a thing that could happen to me, because I think it always, not always, but often I do just things and they backfire, and yeah. But yeah, you learn out of all these things. So everything, in terms of making mistakes, this is actually something I do really want to emphasize a little bit more, because I do think people, and especially parents, do tell their kids that making failures and or mistakes and whatever word I could use as well are just bad. But the thing is, they aren't bad. It was the same thing with me. So I was always told that making a mistake in maths or in German spelling or in English or whatever is bad. And so therefore I do not like to make mistakes now, which is something I do really kind of want to change about myself. And I'm quite in the progress of changing myself in terms of this, because failing is important. Because without failing, you do not really know what you're actually sucking at, which is just good for your self-awareness. Because, if you just really suck at something, the probability of you being good in this thing is not that high. So besides the whole failing thing, I do just recommend doing something as a business, or a wannabe business or a future business, something that you actually are able to do and or are actually good at or talented at even. Because because if you are already good or already talented, being the best or getting the best is way, way fucking easier than just, trying to be good at something you're just totally bad or mediocre or whatever, which makes sense at my point of view. But I do think, in terms of the failing thing again, that failing is important, because failing shows you, this is something I do have to improve in, or, which is, I think even the most important one, this way that I'm trying right now isn't working. So if I'm trying to overcome an obstacle or some other barriers, I do just have to try something else. Not the same thing that I'm just always doing that is not working and clearly not working, which is a failure, and then I know it. I will not do this, or I just kind of changed my approach on this particular thing. And if I do just figured out every single approach I could take and everyone failed, I do just do something else to overcome this obstacle. Which might be a little bit common sense, but I do just think that often it is like, people do not think, and I especially do not think about these really obvious things. And I do just really surprise myself by, reading through things that are so obvious, and then I just really get flashed and be like, this is actually true, and it was always in front of you. And often we do just see everything else, but not the things that are in front of us, which are actually, the things we're looking for. But let's see, hand and thumb gestures. This was actually, I think, just paragraph after paragraph. I didn't really, it's not that long, but I didn't really know that there is so much about hands and thumb gestures, especially thumb gestures, because I was like, thumb up is good, thumb down is, bad, thumb in the middle somewhere is, it's middle, and so on. But I didn't really think that there are so many. But let's see. So hand and thumb gestures, or whatever this is called, but I do give a fuck about this right now. So right-handed people give their favorite point of view or summarize their favorite constant with the right hand, and left people with the left hand. The thing is, if you do have been sticking with me on the last episode on this book, you do really know that if you're presenting something or whatever, you should use your whole hand to show something. So I can't see myself, so I will try to explain it somewhere or somehow. So you not just point at things. If you do have a beamer and a wall or something, you do not point at it. You do not really stick your finger out and point at it. You use your whole hand, and which is the most important thing, you do show your hand with the palm inside so the palm facing the audience, because the palm open or the open palm gesture just really shows that you're honest with what you're talking about. But if you just do it like, it might even not be working. But if you do just show the back of your hand, this is not good, because it shows that you're something hiding and so on. And so therefore just pointing at things in terms of presentation is not good, because it is also something I've been thinking about, because I do think it wasn't really pointed out in the book, but I do not really remember. But if you just do really point at something, your palm is halfway closed, all things but your index finger. And this is always also just showing that you're not honest about the things you're talking about. And so just really spreading your fingers or just, leaving your palm open will just be the best solution for it. But in this situation, I do think that this is just referring to just normal situations and just, normal scenarios, like, in everyday life, not in terms of presentations. And so I think it might actually be true, because, I do have to look for it and keep attention to it to really see if it is really, really the thing. Hand attention and impact. Hand gestures grab attention, increase the impact, and helps individual on the receiving end of the communication remember more about the message, up to a third higher recall in an experiment, which is actually pretty true, or just not pretty true, but very, very interesting. And I do think that it is true, because it just brings more movement into the whole thing, and you can't just show just the point you're trying to make way better with your hands than you can with your mouth, because we all humans are just really visualized people, or just really like visualizing things and have things visualized, especially men, I would say. Women not that much, but men especially. So just really being able to, for example, show a box with your hand and just how big it is, how small it is, the width of it, and all these things is just really great to use your hands for. The rubbing the palm together is a sign of positive expectation. A quick rub signals the person expects the benefit to be for you. Slow rubbing signals the expectation is for them to profit. Salespeople are instructed to rub hands quickly indeed. When a buyer rubs his palms waiting for you to present your product, it's a positive sign that he is in high or has a high expectation. It can be a good option. The thing is, I was quite just laughing internally as I was going through this one, or as I was reading this one the first time, because I thought like, this is always the thing they show in movies and show in cartoons, and it's just, I think it just seems to be so oversaturated. I do quite feel I've never seen someone just rubbing their hands. I do have to admit that I just didn't keep that much attention to it, but I will from now on. But it's quite funny, because as I said, you just see it in cartoons so often, and it just seems to me so oversaturated, or not being that real, and more like actual films and scenarios where they really have to show the body language to make the point, but not in everyday life. Hands clenched together, or clenched, or whatever. Barber and LMP say hands clenched together can be mistaken for a signal confidence, as people are often seen smiling when using it. It is though a gesture showing anxious, restraining, or negative attitude. During negotiating, it can be frustrating gesture, signaling a negative or anxious attitude. The person using feels they are either not convincing the other person or felt like they were losing the negotiation. The hands can be held in front of the face, on a desk, on a lap, or low in front of the crotch. There seems to be a correlation between height and frustration. The higher the hand's clenched position, the higher the degree of frustration. And clenched position or clenched hands, I do just really have to see what this looks like. Yeah, I thought like, and you often see it, and I do often see it pretty often, in presentations from other people. I do really keep attention to it myself so that I'm not doing it, because I feel like, it's also creating some kind of barrier between the audience and myself. So I do just keep my hands away from my body so that I just am fully vulnerable for the person who are looking at me. But the thing is, what I wanted to say initially is that a lot of people have their hands in the crotch area. So it seems to be that they are a little bit in a negative mood. I wouldn't say in terms of presentations that they are some kind of, what did I see here? Frustrated. Maybe not that impactful feeling, but something that's, not that big or not that strong as this feeling is, might be even the case. But I am thinking if I have ever seen a person clenching their hands in front of their mouths or their eyes. I think I haven't. But these monkey emojis that are on Insta and everywhere, so also, or especially on iOS devices. So as for arms crossed, then you should take action to let the person unclench his hands. Yeah, totally. This makes sense. The steeple. Barbara and LNP say the steeple can be the expectation confirming the cluster rule, as it can often occur in isolation. A favorite of Angela Merkel, the steeple is frequently used in interactions between superior and subordinates, and it shows a confident, self-assured personality. It is often used when giving instructions or advice, and is common among accountants, lawyers, and managers. The steeple is usually held high with speaking and held low when listening. Women tend to use the lower steeple more often. And the raised steeple with the head tilted back gives more arrogant and smug air. The steeple can also be a sign of negative confidence. If you are delivering a presentation or a sale and the client was folding arms, crossing legs, looking away, and having many hand-to-face gestures, and then he assumes a steeple your prospect is feeling confident, he will say and that he will easily get rid of you. When you want to pursue it or win the other person's confidence, Peace recommends not to use it, as it can come across as smug or arrogant. And I do really believe that I've never seen anyone but Angela Merkel in my whole life that is using this kind of thing. And it is this thing, if I do know it correctly. This is just this triangular hand position she always does, and it kind of makes sense. And it's some kind of thing, you know her by this gesture. But I've never seen anybody else who's using it. And I do feel like, if it's actually a thing or not. If it's actually used that often as they say it. The face platter. Resting the face on both hands can be a gesture used by women during romantic encounters or dates. She is placing her face there for you to admire it and to attract your attention. If you are interested in more sex signals, take a look at undercover sex signals. I do have been actually thinking about it. No, it was not a dating book, but a book about love on this channel or on this podcast, wherever you are right now, which is the 5 signals of love. You could be looking for it. If you are on the podcast, just hit Command F and then just type in it, and there should be somewhere this episode, just either love signals or 5 love signals or how to know the love signal of your partner. It probably was something like this, so something catchy, something clickbaity. But yeah, this is actually something that I want to improve about myself. I really do want to improve my copy skills or my writing copy skills, because I do think that I'm not that good at it. I'm not just really that able to write that catchy titles or that good titles, but I think it also comes with experience and also comes with time. And yeah, I do, to be honest, and to just talk a little bit more right now, because reading all the time feels not that good for me, to be honest, without me actually saying something to it or, giving additional value to it. But I do was thinking today, like, yeah, I do really want to start another business or another site, an Instagram page, additionally to what I'm doing right now. Because I kind of feel like, yeah, just really isolating myself into this one thing, which is something I do kind of not want for my entire future to be like. I do really want to do a lot of things, not only this one thing or that one thing. I do want to, I don't know, do sports. I do want to do design things. I do want to do this. I do want to do some other things. So I just thought like, yeah, I could do it. There's actually a really, really, really great advice Gary Vee told somebody in a podcast, I think. I do not remember correctly, but I think it was a podcast actually, or it was probably a video and a podcast because he is also doing it. Um, or he just said, yeah, you can just be like, yeah, 80% of the time you're putting into your main business or main job, and 20% of your time you just put into these additional things or the additional business or the side hustle. For me, it would be like this, because what I'm doing right now is actually my side hustle, because school is also a thing for me, especially because I'm just graduating the next year, and I do not really fuck my whole entire journey of going to school right in the last few years, because this would be just really dumb and would make my life even tougher at the end of it, at the end of my school career. But I do think, and I'm always quite thinking like, I do have pages right now that aren't running anymore, but I've run them or run them. No, it's actually run. I've run them some time ago, and so they have a few follower amount. So actually, I think 200 or 100, not that much, but better to start with or than with 0 followers. But I do am thinking like, should it be some kind of service? Should it be some kind of actual physical product? Should it be something like informational products? But I do think that, just today I always say do think, but I think that actual physical products would be a great way to get additional value to myself and to other people especially, and to just for me really experience the way real physical people, not physical people, but physical products, what their ways are, how what problems could come up, and so on. So this is also a thing, and so I was just always thinking about like, I do want to bring in my my design life a little bit more. So this would actually be another opportunity for me to do it. And I do kind of feel like making something like charity-ish. Maybe even 100% charity, but I do not know, uh, because but it would be good for me and it would feel amazing for me to just being able to actually create a physical product or selling a physical product a lot, which then just contributes all these poor people. And this would be just great for me. And so I was then just thinking about making print on demand products, which is just like, you go to a site, you make your design, you upload your design, and they print it if somebody buys it on, I don't know, mugs, on t-shirts, on all these things. The problem with these things is that I've actually talked about this before, but it's some while ago. The actual problems with these things are that most of the time the quality isn't too good. And I do really want to have the quality to be good, especially when it's not something about charity. which means that, yeah, if you're just selling a product for 20, 30, $50, you just really expect the quality to be a little bit better than just, H&M stuff. But on the other side, it is also a thing that I do not want to pollute the whole environment with my fucking t-shirts, with all my mugs and all these things. Therefore, it would actually be great to just have a charity brand or charity company, because then I just can't put all the money I gain with it back to all these people who are actually some kind of producing it, or back into the environment and environmental changes. So this would be great. But yeah, I don't know. And actually, on the other side, and in terms of the whole print on demand thing, a lot of people are using them, and so it's not that serious, to be honest. There are actual things you can just use with Shopify, which is, if you do not know, it's just software for you to create an online shop, a real online shop, so that you actually sell your own products, some sort of. And there's also some kind of service, a print on demand service, but it's not kind of that obvious that you're using it. So it actually seems like you are actual printing these and selling these on your own. But yeah, I do think, and I do just feel like creating something additionally to what I'm just creating right now. Maybe not because maybe actually because I'm that impatient. I do feel like, I wanna see and feel results a little bit faster than I'm getting right now. I do really get my results, don't get me wrong. In these 3 months that I'm actually, just have really putting up my game in terms of, the actual, starting the podcast, really putting out more videos and more podcasts and more posts on social media, everything got up. I do currently have around 1,000, so it's 960 total plays on my podcast, which is amazing. It's a lot. It's just, you just have to imagine it, seeing 900 people who are just watching your episodes. This is just amazing. And on Instagram, it's at the moment at 600, but I don't want to focus on the numbers. You some sort of do have to just to see what is performing good, what is actually what your target audience or your audience wants, and so on. So you kind of need numbers, but I do feel like, just really thinking about numbers, or only thinking about numbers, isn't also not the greatest way to go with. But let's actually see. Holding hands behind the back. And I do have to see, time is quite advanced. And I do actually feel with these episodes, I think I really hope that you get a lot of value out of it. It's often quite hard to read through it, because there are often some spelling mistakes, which, make it especially pretty hard for me to read it. But I could just, read a little bit better. Barbara and LP say that holding hands, or holding one's hand behind the back, is a sign of authority. High military headmasters at school, royalty, and policemen will usually use it. The person is fully exposing his body in a show of fearlessness. And this is actually the thing where I was thinking like, this makes sense. But most of the time people in school just tell you not to hold your hands behind your back. And they do even, if I remember correctly, talk about a negative effect of this body language thing as well. I just, go on reading. Cause and effect also applies. So if you use this pose in high stress situations, you will also begin to feel confident and even authoritative. So authoritative, this and this is really a great way or great point that I'm just getting out of this book in total. It's really underlining the fact that Tony Robbins said, emotion is created by motion, which means that if you do sit straight up, you feel way better and way more confident than if you're just really sitting like a sandbag, just douching around. And I wasn't quite sure about it. I'm still not that sure about it, but they said it. This is actually the second time they've said it. The first time was when you're crossing your arms, you will feel defensive, And yeah, and if you are holding your hands behind your back, you will feel more confident, because yeah, it would make sense psychologically and in terms of nature, because you just make yourself so fucking vulnerable to everyone. It makes sense. You could attack me right now because just throw a fucking or just shoot me, and I couldn't do anything. You just hit me like a sword with a sword in my fucking chest that I die, and I couldn't do anything because my hands are behind my back. Even though I feel like, yeah, having your hands behind your back can actually, really create the feeling of you not showing but hiding something, which is, I think, the actual negative thing they are trying to point out, but as I remember, they just didn't quite. So if, however, the person is holding his wrist behind his back, it communicates frustration and an attempt to self-restrain. And the higher up is the grip, the higher is the frustration. If you catch yourself doing it, change the palm in palm position instead, and you'll begin to feel more relaxed and confident. So palm in palm. Palm in palm gesture. Yeah, you can see it. So, really, the YouTube watchers contribute from it. So on the left side, no, this is the right side actually. On the right side, this is the upper arm grip, which is, as they say, it is something that you shouldn't do, because the higher you grab your wrist or your actual arm, then the more frustration you show, which is something I, by now, as I understand it correctly, but with my first go through with this book, I didn't really get it. I do understand it right now, and I do it quite often, and I should never do it again. On the left side, it's something like, yeah, you're a little bit frustrated, and in the middle, this is actually the thing that I was talking about. Like, this is actually the thing all the military and all the policemen are actually doing. And if you know soccer, a lot of soccer players are doing it as well. So if they make their group photo or the squad photo, they do all just sit like their hands behind the back, but not like one hand grabbing a wrist, but both hands in the other hand. So one hand in the other hand, which is the actual thing you should be doing, because this seems to just communicate authority or confidence, or just not being frustrated. The thumb displays. Barbara and LP say that thumbs denote superiority. I do think this is going ahead into another chapter. No, it won't. So I will go through it. So Barbara and LP say that thumbs denote superiority, and body language gestures using the thumb show self-important attitudes. Thumbs indeed are used to display dominance, assertiveness, and sometimes even aggressive attitude. A man will use protruding thumbs around women he likes, and even when he's wearing high status clothing, you will rarely see low status individuals using it. If someone is verbally showing humbleness and shows his thumb, you can probably guess he's not being fully forthcoming. Thumbs coming out of back pockets are a bit of a Tama pose, as if the person was trying to hide the dominant attitude. So I do have to protruding thumbs. Protruding, and I really do suggest you to do the same. So if you do not understand something, because it's only written text and there are no actual pictures, just Google it and you will definitely find a picture, and then you'll be like, yeah. And actually, at my point of view, will just remember it way better, because you then have the connection between the picture, the actual text, and so on. So I do not know. It's actually pretty fucking difficult to really know what they mean. to be really quite honest here. So body language, thumbs indeed are used to. A man will use protruding thumbs around women he likes, and even when he is wearing high status clothing, blah 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 blah. Thumbs coming out of back pockets. Pointing at someone with the thumb is usually a gesture of ridicule and disrespect towards the person you point your thumb at. Usually it is not directly pointed at the person you're speaking to, but it is pointed towards a third party. Yeah, definitely. Because if you be like, yeah, this is the person who did it, and be like, yeah, you're swinging your hand or your actual arm with the thumb up gesture behind your back. Like, for the podcast listeners, I try to kind of explain what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about. If you just have your arm with your thumbs up into a 90-degree angle towards your body, so just, in front of you, and you just, throw it behind your back and just kind of point to your back or on your back, but you actually mean like, yeah, this was he, or it's his fault, or they are to blame, or whatever you're gonna say. Yeah, this actually feels already like, yeah, just really kind of insulting. But I do actually not really know what they say about the protruding thumbs. I do feel like, yeah, it's like when you are into your pockets and do have your thumbs showing outside, that it shows your status and so on. But I do also think, because I've heard it somewhere, it was actually TV, so it's not quite that sure if it's true or not, that it should be not good to really have your hands into your pockets and your thumb out, but rather your thumb in and everything else out of the pocket. So yeah. But I do think this is the end of the episode, and I hope you just got a lot out of it, even though I'm just reading a lot, and though I'm not, giving that additional value to it. I do hope that you actually just enjoy me talking about this. This is, I think actually the most important thing about it, and you enjoy the topic and the value you're getting. So I wish you nothing more than fucking happiness, and I do just wish you to be. I kind of wish to be able to give away my happiness and my feelings and my mindset and all these things, just really, yeah, take a little bit without actually me losing it, because this would be just really fucked up, and give it to her and give it to him. And I do actually then think that this is actually the point that I'm going to or willing to make in the world, to get people to think about them a little bit better, or not that worse as they are doing right now. So yeah, follow me on my social media channels, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube video, whatever. I'll see you the next time, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. Really from the bottom of my heart. And I'll see you the next time. And I wish you health, wealth, success, legacy, success, health, wealth, happiness, legacy, and I hope you're giving back also something. So, I see you the next time.